to alter what was agreed by the parties. The court was not addressed on this particular point in the oral arguments. And the oral arguments tended to deal with a purported agreement. Now, you may have heard the argument on the part of our lawyer, who was saying that they have come to you. This matter has come before court. They are not asking for specific performance. Now, specific performance means that if there is an agreement between the parties and you allege that this party or party A has not followed the conditions of the agreement, you can ask the court to compel the party that is in default to follow the agreement as is laid down. Now, does this prayer mean that the court should compel the family to do what is in the agreement? No. It is introducing a new element. It is introducing a new thing that is not even part of agreement, assuming that there was an agreement that was to be followed. There was a back and forth in court that you may have noticed. And the most important part in the state arguing their case, though admitting that the requirement of the family is that President Hakainde Hichilema should be nowhere near the body, they wanted to concentrate on the aspect of repatriation. Now, we're expecting a judgment in the next few days, and that judgment of the court will be dealing with relief number one. This relief number one, should the government repatriate the body of the late President Edgar Chagwa Lungu? If they are going to say yes, they need to give reasons. And the reasons would, assuming there's an agreement, would be to go to the agreement and say, does this supposed agreement, which both parties are saying was breached, say that it is the duty of the government to repatriate the body? Your guess is as good as mine as to what the answer is going to be on this part. The second relief that the state is asking for is that the 8th respondent, this is the funeral home, be ordered that when the sheriff demands, they hand over the body to the embassy of Zambia or a representative of the government of Zambia. Now, these two, if you will notice, are seeking to exclude the participation of the family in this process. Now, if the court is going to look at this and say, is it reasonable that this matter, or indeed the government or the court should order that the body, the funeral home hands it over directly to the government? These are matters that the state brought in, and our arguments in our documents, which needed not be repeated in court because they're already in the document. You heard at the beginning, the court was saying, we have read what is in the submissions. We know what you have in the submissions. What you have to do is tell us something more. This is not our case. It is a case for the state. So if the state raises an argument, ours is only to respond to matters that they have raised. Matters that have been settled in the documents are settled in the documents, and the court has already read. Now, for those that are curious and only saw what was happening, are thinking, is that everything? No, that is not everything. The matters that are in the documents are, number one, government wants to exclusively repatriate the body to Zambia. Number two, government wants the body to be surrendered to the government of the Republic of Zambia by the funeral home to the exclusion of the family. Number 3, they are saying that the first to the 7th respondents are authorized to be present when the funeral home is handing over to the High Commission. Now, should it be the state to give permission to the family to be present when the funeral home is handing over the body? These are matters that we have argued extensively in the document. Now, they're not only saying that the family should be present when the funeral home is handing over to the government, they go further and say this should be subject to such restrictions that the government of the Republic of Zambia may reasonably impose. Meaning that government of the Republic of Zambia wants to take full control of the body, suggesting that the body belongs to the government. And the matters that they were raising in court, there is no relief that they've asked for in this particular case. It's for that reason that we keep saying they were playing rugby in a game of football. So if your opponent is playing rugby, you know that the moment you touch the ball and start running with it, that's a handball. You have a free kick. And obviously, you need not caution or warn the other party. You just concentrate on what they are raising. So that is where we are right now, and we are awaiting the judgment of the court, answering these specific questions, and not going anywhere else.
Yes, we're privileged that that you are a lawyer. You'll understand this. But for us, first of all, we watched. What we watched, what was that? Is that the entire case? You are saying there are submissions that the court has already. So I think that is important to explain what was happening today. Maybe Muli science exam, Mwalemba theory, Mwachana practice. What was this forum today, and what have you submitted to court before? Number 2, there was an issue of the Attorney General's case there through their lawyers. It seems that their demand seems to have shifted to your agreement, yet they are relying on the agreement. They are saying you've broken the agreement. They are saying that by agreeing to repatriate the body to Zambia, it meant that either both the late president and the family had agreed that the body be buried in Zambia. So why are we burying in South Africa? So just explain that before I come to the parties and show the pictures, because people don't know who is the lawyer for the family, who is the gentleman who wanted to be just included in the court case, who many people are calling a family lawyer, and who's the actual family lawyer. But maybe just go back to what was happening today. Is that your entire case we saw? And the Attorney General says you've broken the agreement. You're also telling them they've broken the agreement. Just enlighten us on all those 2 issues.
All right. So what you saw happening in court firstly was the application by an intervener by the name of Vincent, who was resident in Cape Town, who wanted to join this matter. He does not represent the family, and in his application, he applied to say, in one breath, he was saying, well, whereas the family is entitled to the body belongs to the family, President Hakainde Chilema should be allowed to attend the burial anywhere where it was going to be. What he sought to argue before court is that in the event that the court says the family is free to bury, even if it means burying in South Africa, he wanted the court to make an order that President Hakainde Chilema can come to represent the people of Zambia and be present at the burial. That is what was before court. But the court asked, what is your interest in this particular matter? He said he would be affected in the event that if the president was his arguments were pretty much everywhere. You may have noticed that his arguments were pretty much everywhere. And obviously, at the end of it all, he was not joined to the case. The court decided you do not have sufficient interest. There is no right that you have ascertained, your right, that will be affected in the event that the court made a judgment whether to bury in South Africa or in Zambia. And so he was excluded from the matter. So the next person that you heard was the old man who was representing the state. And in his arguments, like you rightly put it, he was arguing a case on behalf of the state, hanging on to the agreement and saying the family is the one that breached the agreement. But he was candid enough to admit that there was an inclusion in the program, and that inclusion was not agreed to by the family. That inclusion was the fact that President Hakainde Hichilema would be at the airport to receive the body, and the body will be taken to a designated place for a church service, and for what was termed a church service, something that was not agreed upon prior to the departure or the family wanting to depart. Over and above that, whereas the family had said the body would be received by the state, by the family in Zambia, what happened was the day before we could even depart, government announced that only people who are going to attend by invitation were going to be there, without giving an opportunity to discuss this matter with the family, because we agreed that at every step of the way we're going to agree, meaning that the family was not able to invite the family members who are going to receive the body. And over and above that, those that what was put in the program was going to mean that the family was going to land in Zambia, and the only person to receive the body there was going to be the army and President Hakainde Hichilema. Something that was not agreed on, something that should have been agreed on. And that showed that the state could not be trusted, because at any juncture there was a change. Every time there was an agreement, there was a change. Now, there have been attempts to try and politicize this matter. But the reason the family in most cases has kept quiet and only stuck to the real issues that were being dealt with. In the middle of that, the state was bringing different stories. You would see the propaganda online, bashing the family, saying the family had bought 150 cars, the family was living luxuriously, the family are running away from the cases in Zambia. That was never the case. They even went to an extent of saying the family wants their cases dropped before they can bring the body. That was never the case. You saw Mr. Patrick Kango confirm that that was never an issue that was discussed in the meetings that we had. And today, the government conveniently chose to argue the question of the agreement having been breached, without necessarily looking at the prayers that they have in their document, which defines the four corners of their case. Even assuming that the agreement was valid, as it were, there is nothing in this document, when it comes to the reliefs that the government is seeking, that empowers the court to say, yes, do this, yes, or no, don't do that. Because all they are saying in this document is that they want to exclusively repatriate the body to Zambia. They want the body to be handed over from the funeral home to the government. The family cannot only be present, and they'll be present on conditions or restrictions that the government may impose. And they even go to the extent of 2 or 3 people may accompany the body. So the family in this case wonders, what is our role in all this? Who is entitled to all this? That's why in our arguments, in the several authorities, some authorities were cited in court, including by the lawyers for the state, where they are recognizing the rights of the widow, the rights of a deceased person, and our argument was that, listen, there's this right to dignity. It extends to the person who has died, but it's part of the family. And the questions that the government will be should have been answering in this case is whether or not the issue of the burial of President Chagwalungu would be dignified to the satisfaction of the family. Because the desire of the family in all this is one. How do we give President Edgar Chagwalungu a dignified send-off?
You were
main
the thrust is that they're alleging that there is no will that was left by President Edgar Lungu where he would like to be buried. Another thrust, they are stating that his former president, therefore, if we bury in South Africa, we are denying an opportunity to President Hakainde Hichilema and the people of Zambia from mourning him with dignity, decency. These are their main arguments. So let me address the aspect of what is your answer to that?
So when there's alleged that there was no will, our argument then is fortified to say where there's no will, where the late person who died has not stated how they should be buried, then what happens is that the decision of the family, particularly the next of kin or the spouse, is the one that will stick. That is the law. Now there was an argument to say this is not an ordinary person. This is a former president. And you heard when the court said in jest to say, well, the state has said that those benefits come back. And the court went further and said, well, that's a concession on the part of the state. Now, what's the extent of this concession? They are conceding that this office, now the court will have to determine whether the position of a former president as an office and a person that held the position of former president. If you look at the letter that was filed in court, the letter that related to whether or not the president was entitled to those benefits. If you read it and read it carefully, you will know.
Are you talking about the letter dated? Are you talking about the letter dated, I think, 29th October 2023, written by Dr. Oliver Kalabo as Deputy Secretary to Cabinet, in which he stripped off the benefits for the late president because the late president had joined partisan politics. Is that the letter you're referring to?
That's the letter I'm referring to. But particularly the last paragraph of that letter will tell you that they said the office of the sixth Republican president is closed with immediate effect and the members of staff redeployed. Now, the office of the sixth Republican president is the one that is entitled to all those benefits by the person that is in that office. So, in name, President Edgar Chagwalungu was a former president. The office of the sixth Republican president, which entitled him to those benefits, had been closed. The benefits had been stripped away. And the argument before court by the government is that upon his demise, then those benefits come back. That is what the state argued. And the court was gracious enough to say, well, that is a concession on the part of the state.
What did the court mean when they said that?
They'll buy a house, they'll buy a car. Yes. You heard how that the lawyer for the government was saying, yeah, they'll buy a car, they'll build a house. That is what they said. But that only goes to confirm that indeed this is the person that you stopped from traveling for medicals. This is a person who, when he traveled for medicals, traveled in their private capacity and was here in South Africa in their private capacity. You have come in now because he is dead. The court will have to determine that. But the determination of that, does it go to fulfill any of these reliefs? If the conclusion is that this person who has died was a former president that is entitled to those benefits, and the benefits that are in that particular document are funeral expenses in relation to death. Those are the only benefits that are there. But of course, there is a circular that talks of burial, funerals and all. It is not law. The government did not state before court any law that says the president must be, or a former president, or indeed the president buried in this manner. The argument before court was that there are protocols and procedures that have been developed over time. You, Ambassador, will agree with me that the first death that we have of a former president was in 2008, or indeed of a president was in 2008. And so far, we have had 4 presidents that have died, and President Edgar Chagwa is the 5th one. And these have died. And according to the state, this has condensed into a tradition, a custom, and a culture. And we are saying, no. It can't develop into a tradition, a custom, and a culture merely because the others have been buried there. The alternative argument was that, well, there's the Kaweche Kaunda case, and we have argued that this is different, and the court did say that, well, listen, for Kenneth Kaunda, he died in Zambia. President Edgar Chagwa has died in South Africa. That's a distinction. But our lawyer went further to say, listen, the case of Kaweche is different because President Kenneth Kaunda even had benefits of a former president, as well as that judgment which was given by the court was not a judgment on a substantive matter where parties were allowed to be heard or parties were heard. It was a matter for judicial review which failed, and those were stated by the way by the judge because the parties were not heard. So it's not a matter that has really been tested in the Zambian courts. That is what we had prevailing in court today, and we look forward to the court answering these 3 prayers that the state prayed. And these 3 prayers do not say anything about the supposed agreement. And with these 3 prayers, the court can't even come to an extent of saying, well, the agreement should be followed because it doesn't deal with that. And that was the argument that our lawyer was presenting to say, there is no prayer for specific performance. There's nothing in the prayer that alleges or wants a finding.
In fact, counsel, that's what I want you to dwell on just for a few minutes, because you stated something just now, that this is not your case. It is a case of the Attorney General. So the case of the Attorney General, General came to argue his case. You also stated that you've made submissions already. You've already laid your rebuttal to the Attorney General's case.
Exactly. So
today,
what was being talked about in court is just a tip of an iceberg. You have the over 73 pages of arguments, 53 pages of arguments that has already been filed in court, which were not touched on whilst we're in court. The state raised an issue of the supposed agreement, looking at the progression of the matter, but then forgetting that the issues that they want the court to determine have got nothing to do with the agreement.
Because the agreement was deemed breached by both parties. And that's why we're in court.
Well, in this particular case, yes, both parties are saying you breached. On our part, we didn't breach any part of it. According to them, you breached when you decided not to repatriate. And we're saying, no. You breached when you changed the terms and conditions of the compromise that we had. Now, that is a compromise on the part of the family that was reached, which they have called an agreement. But that compromise was conditional on them abiding to all that was put in those concessions that we made. So the family made certain concessions. The state was to abide by all those concessions that the family made. They chose not to. So with that conditionality having been breached, we couldn't move. That is for possibly another case. This particular case, the government is saying we are entitled to repatriate. The family must be excluded from this process, save to be present and on conditions that may be imposed by the government. Now, how cruel can you be? So those are the things that will have to be determined.
Thank you, Council. Let me bring the visuals because there's been confusion. I saw a lot of confusion on social media. Who is the family spokesperson? I mean, who's the family lawyer? Who's the lawyer for the Attorney General? And who is this young man, Vincent, from Cape Town? Many people thought that that Vincent was actually the family lawyer. Let me just bring those visuals for a minute. And thank you to the dear viewers, the thousands that have joined this podcast. We are grateful. There will be an opportunity for you to call and air your views. Let me just begin with the visuals so that we see what was happening at court.
Reporting live
But we stand with.
But we are standing with you.
This is your family.
This is your family.
Wow. Mama, what's
So in that visual, you see that the visuals there is that the protesters hired for government abandoned their protest and left the posters there. This is a lawyer for government.
Lady will bear in mind that there was the agreement reached that when the funeral takes place, that the current president will be permitted to be there when foreign dignitaries to receive him and also when the state funeral takes place. Now, I emphasize this because this is one of the grounds on which the respondents, when they made the remarkable about turn on the 18th.
So you watch that. That is the main lawyer for the Attorney General who was presenting his case. We have the lawyer for the family. This is the lawyer for the family.
It must contain the facts and the pleading, therefore we had to file the conditional counter application to align our pleadings with the facts. Something the applicant chose not to do any further with regards to what type of relief they sought. They sought a declarative, they didn't seek specific performance in prayer one day. So we needed to align everything to make sure that everything's before court, everything's properly ventilated. The facts that we rely on, which the applicant says is non-existent in that affidavit, is existent. We rely on all the facts already stated, the representation, the impossibility that they admit to say if there's a breach, it's not material, and in any event, it's impossible to agree to such a term because the president will be there. And then obviously the undue hardship has already been dealt with. It will be undignified to force the respondent to have the current president preside over the funeral of the late president.
Sorry, are you saying we must read those factors in?
Those factors are dealt with because we incorporate the factors of the answering affidavit in the counter application. We start off by saying everything that's said in the answering affidavit is applicable. The reason why the conditional counter application...
Then there was a case of a third party who had applied as an intervener. You know, as counsel would explain, an intervener is a third party who joins an existing lawsuit or processes and they were not originally part of it. They are third parties, but they are saying they want to assert interest. Some people are saying this is the lawyer for the family, but this is Vincent, a businessman who lives in Cape Town. In fact, if you see his initial filing in court, he was demanding that the body be taken to Zambia for President Hakainde Hichilema to host the funeral. I think Hon Makebi Zulu can speak to that. He also stated that in the event that the funeral, the court were to rule that the funeral will be held in Zambia, he should be allowed, President Zuma should be allowed to attend. That's not a law.
You know, the church leaders, church leaders, NGOs, people who are not worshiping government. If you bring people who worship government, you can't agree.
So Vincent Kafula is a Zambian national based in Cape Town. He came to court. I think I'll publicize his earlier filing in court when he wanted to be joined to the case as an intervener. He said President Hakainde Hichilema was entitled to the body because he's president of the Republic of Zambia. He's entitled to, to sit and preside over this funeral. That was his main application. He mumbo-jumboed in, but he has written submissions in his application that you can be aware of. Then the Attorney General made some interesting views after the case. He admitted that the South African law, this is the Attorney General, Mulilo Kamisha, admitted that the South African law only allows the next of kin to decide the fate of the deceased person. Listen to him.
And, the late indicated. But what even the court was asking that did the deceased president make his wish that he wanted to be buried in Zambia? And the answer was yes. So who is saying he shouldn't be buried in Zambia? The first respondent is the one who has made a decision. But again, of course, she could have made that decision because the law here in South Africa says the next of kin. Yeah, so it's looking at what the law says here.
So the Attorney General admitted, Council, the Attorney General admitted that in South Africa, under South African law, the next of kin determined the fate of the deceased. But earlier he had asked, he's alleging that there is no will by the late president to be buried elsewhere other than Zambia. And then he's asking that question, who is then making that decision? Then he ends up by saying that he recognizes that the law in South Africa allows for states that the next of kin determines it. Of course, later he began to argue the issue of public interest. Just speak to this particular matter.
Well, indeed, the law in South Africa is that in the absence of a will, an expression by the person that obviously the decision of the next of kin, who may be the widow, if in the absence of the widow, the next of kin, yet another person in line would make the determination. And it's for that reason that we're saying, listen, what was heard in court was only a part. You didn't see the video of President Edgar Chagwalungu being played in court, but it is submitted and the judges are considering those videos. You didn't see other audio and video evidence that we have presented before the court as to what has been going on in, relating to this matter. You've not seen all those, because if we had to go through everything, it would have taken a month or two to indeed go through everything, dissect every conversation, dissect every video. Then it would have taken forever. And the court said, listen, we have already looked at what is contained in this. There are videos and audios presented by the states. There are videos and audios presented by us, the respondents in this matter. I say us because I'm cited as the seventh respondent in the matter. And then argue on other things that you emphasize or that are a core part of your matter. And this is the state's case. So the state argued what they thought was important to them, which unfortunately we have looked at this, does not fall within the three prayers that they are speaking to, and we were able to respond relating to that matter. And in this particular case, it is fortunate that we are where we are.
Council, let me just interrupt, unfortunately. Are you saying that the state introduced an argument that is not in their submissions? Did the state introduce new facts? And what are the ramifications?
The state veered off from what is in their prayers, because whatever you're going to plead should be going to substantiate why you think the court must give you a particular order. Now, when the state came up with their case, they came up with their case with a sense of entitlement, that it's our entitlement to repatriate the body by ourselves. The family can only accompany. Now they need to find facts or the
Uh-oh.
as opposed to
Signal is cutting. Signal is cutting. Signal. They are messing with the signal. They are messing with the signal, guys. This is important. This is very important live, but we have seen the live is breaking or cutting, something funny going on. Let me check on my other device and see if it's up. Raptura. Imingarato. Mingarato Nation.
Former president here in South Africa. However, the Zambian government disagrees with this request and is seeking that a final declarator before the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria this morning, which would confirm that they, as the applicants, if they are successful, have the right to bury the former president. We see in papers that the Zambian government is stating that
Okay, looks like we lost the signal for the video, guys. Both my devices are down. Yeah.
that the former president is a citizen of.
Yeah, so they're struggling with the connection. They are struggling with the connection, guys. It's cutting in and out. It's cutting in and out. But I think we have heard most of the important things.
The Zambian government has a responsibility to do so. So that is the final declarative that is sought in the court this morning. It is being treated as a special motion, so it is a very serious hearing. And of course, you are seeing that the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria, or the acting judge president, rather has enlisted a full bench that is a panel of 3 judges, senior judges, to hear this particular matter, which includes the acting judge president, Justice Aubrey Ledwaba. We expect that in the next hour or so that this hearing will kick off, and we have already seen members of the Patriotic Front, sympathizers, etc. I'm just going to step out of frame to quickly give you some of the scenes outside court. That already some posters are going to be set up by those sympathizers who are calling for the family to be given the right to bury their loved one in accordance with their wishes. And we have seen some officials from the Zambian government as well show up to the court this morning to defend their position that it is their constitutional duty, that is the Constitution of Zambia, to bury the former president in accordance with those state protocols and ensure that he's given a dignified funeral in accordance with the public interest of not only Zambia but its people. Over to you in studio.
Thank you very much. We had a technical glitch there. Because Honorable Makebi Zulu is in South Africa and I am in the United States. So it's the connections between the 2 states, then broadcasting to Zambia. I don't know what happened, but we had the glitch where the connection just dropped. But on my page alone, about 70,000 people are watching on my page alone. 2,400 comments and so many likes. This include, then there are other pages where people are watching. We thank you. We'll be opening the phone lines just shortly, and then we'll allow Honorable Makebi Zulu to leave because he's got an urgent meeting that he's rushing to. So I apologize, we have that technical glitch. I don't know what happened, but it happens in technology. This is remote broadcasting. I'm in the United States. Honorable Makebi Zulu is in South Africa, and I don't know what happened there. But let me see how if he's now connected and we can begin.
The late indicated. But what even the court was asking that did the deceased president make his wish that he wanted to be buried in Zambia? And the answer was yes. So who is saying he shouldn't be buried in Zambia? The first respondent is the one who has made the decision. But again, of course, she could have made that decision because the law here in South Africa says the next of kin. Yeah, so it's looking at what the law says here.
Is this something that the Zambian
Council, I lost you there. I don't know if it was your hotel internet, whether it was my internet here in South Africa, I don't know, in the United States, I don't know what happened. But you have attracted a huge audience, I think because of the matter we're dealing with. This is a national matter. President Hakainde Hichilema maybe thought that when he closed, the day of national mourning and he said people should return to their lives, they didn't. The last 1 hour, you've spoken just about the legalities of what happened today. Speak generally to this case and to the relationship to our country. We've drawn international attention, and every time this matter comes up, like it is here, just on my page alone, 70,000 people are watching. This is a huge national matter. It remains an open wound. It hasn't been closed. What have we done right? What have we done wrong? I want you to drop your legalese and the legal issues. Just speak to this matter.
Well, this is a very sad matter, I must say. And it borders on failure of leadership. I wouldn't want to to really get down to, I'm trying to avoid being perceived to be politicizing this issue because of the role that I'm playing in this matter. And we should look at this matter devoid of politics. And in looking at it devoid of politics, we're saying perhaps the leadership, right from the start, did not handle this matter very well. The family, being in a very vulnerable position, should not be taken for granted. To suggest that they have no say of a person who is not only a father, but is also a husband, an uncle, a grandfather. He's many things to many people. It is important that the question that must be determined is a decent burial. Like I said, in court, we have submitted videos. It has been said that there is no will, but you can decipher, even from the way he was speaking, what he would have wanted. Not only that, he also communicated his wishes to those he loved. Even assuming that he didn't, the family has a right to decide what will amount to a dignified send-off. The culmination of all the things that have happened in between and put together seems to suggest that it will be impossible for President Hakainde Hichilema's government to give President Edgar Chagwa Lungu a dignified send-off. It will appear as though these are spoils of war we have conquered and therefore we are burying. That is what it may appear to be. And the family is trying to avoid such kind of a display, and they're saying we need to bury him in a respectful manner, in a manner that is deemed dignified on the part of the family. We know he was a president for all Zambians. We know that Zambians gave him this particular opportunity. But the manner in which the ones that want to superintend over this event does not connote or denote that this person will be given a dignified send-off. That is what it is. If I were President Hakainde Hichilema, and it is communicated to me that President Edgar Chagwa Lungu has died, the first thing I'll probably do is call the widow and say, listen, I may not have had a good relationship with your husband because we were playing politics. He has died now, and I know you may have preferences as a family. I want to assure you that I will be there for you to help in any way. If there's anything that I can do, we have a protocol, or we've developed this system over time where we bury our president at Embassy Park. If you are willing or you'd like to, it would be good. As a matter of fact, I would like to come through and convey my condolences. But if you can't allow me, perhaps I'll send my wife. Something like that could have shown some humane aspect from the government. Something like that could have shown that indeed they are interested in resolving these issues. If for some reason President Hakainde Hichilema thought that his relationship with President Edgar Chagwa Lungu was indeed that toxic, and or if the family says, no, we do not want to see you, he could simply request, may I send my wife to you? If I were him, I would say, perhaps I can send my wife to you to come and just convey my condolences. If you can't have my wife, perhaps the vice president or any minister to come through to you. It just doesn't have to be him. If the family says, it is you we don't want, why are you insisting? If the family feels a dignified send-off for President Edgar Chagwa Lungu would require that you are absent, give it to them. You will not die if you did that. Nothing wrong will happen to you if you did that. Just yield to the desires of the family. That gives them the sense that President Edgar Chagwa Lungu is a dignified of. Even if it means them buying away from home. If it gives them the sense that this is a dignified send-off. Leadership requires that you do just that. If you're going to negotiate, you don't negotiate using persons that have spoken ill of the deceased. You don't decide who should be on the other side whom you want to talk to. You don't decide who you're going to play football with from the other team. You can't say substitute the goalkeeper and put this goalkeeper. You don't do that. But in this whole thing, it may be more than we are seeing. And I would request that perhaps as a country, we pray for our nation. We pray for continued cohesion as a nation. But above all this, we need to pray for the Lungu family. We pray for God's comfort. We pray that if at all it is beyond what we see, if this matter could be spiritual, we pray that this matter be dealt with. We pray for God's intervention. It will be very important that we do that. In the meantime, the Lungu family wishes the Zambians well, and they thank you for the well wishes that you've expressed, the messages of condolences that keep pouring in, and they want you to know that they have not neglected you in any way. They just want President Edgar Chagwa Lungu to be given what would be a dignified send-off, and not his body to be treated as bounty or booty or indeed spoils of war. That is all they're asking for. I think it's not too much to ask. Thank you for having me, and we pray that you continue praying for us here in South Africa, continue praying for the family, for God to give them strength. Tomorrow will be exactly 2 months with President Edgar Lungu in the morgue. May peace indeed. And we look forward to that particular day where we indeed say his soul is resting in peace.
Council, before I let you go, I don't know, are you able to take about 5 calls, then you leave? And number 2, speak to forgiveness, because the government and the chiefs they've lined up, some so-called members of the church that they've lined up, are saying we are not using this funeral to unite the country. It has in fact caused more division. Is that something the family could have done? I know from the family side, probably they expected the president to apologize, the president to reach the family home. He has not reached the family home. He has not even, or for example, the first lady has not reached to see the former first lady. The funeral that was held at Belvedere was like a fanfare for the UPND, while the PF and others held at the secretariat. President Hakainde Hichilema has not been to the funeral home, either in Chifwema or to South Africa. But is there something you could have done? Because I saw the propaganda pushed on ZNBC, where the button is being pushed to the family, that the family is not being forgiving, the family is not using this funeral to unite. What are your perspectives on that?
You see, there's so much pressure being brought to bear on the family to say the family should be forgiving. Who has asked for that forgiveness? See, there are certain things that we have to be very sensitive when we're dealing with people that are bereaved. This matter in court has exposed a lot. Like we said, the story will be told, and it is being told. You heard how that the state, in their documents, are agreeing to say, yes, we stopped him for going for his medicals in 2023. We stopped him because he didn't present the particulars as to why he wanted to go. But you, in later, then did not give a reason as to why they stopped him. But in the same breath, they said, he had been ill since 2015, a condition that led him to go to South Africa on the 19th of January. Now, how evil can you be where you're saying we were aware all this time? We stopped him because he didn't tell us. But why should you tell you of something you are aware of if indeed that's... In your letter, you didn't say, why didn't you ask for particulars or the reasons? You simply say, it's denied. And at the time you were denying him, he still enjoyed what were the benefits of the former president. And you gave no reason. You go ahead and attempt and say that we stopped him from flying to Korea because the event that he was going for, which was a peace summit, by the way, an event that happens annually, there are no politics there. It's an annual summit. You said he was going there for political purposes. That's why we stopped. He went to Ndola. You said he was going there for political purposes. That's why we stopped him. When the invitation was by a pastor's fellowship and was to speak at the pastor's fellowship, you agree to all these things, and then you bring pressure to bear on the family that the family should forgive. It is not whether or not the family is forgiving or not. That is not the issue here. We can't reduce it to be an issue of forgiveness. It is an issue of what would amount to a dignified send-off for President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. Indeed, everyone is forgiven. All are forgiven. Does forgiving someone mean that you acquiesce to a bad and dignified? We think not. A dignified burial is independent of issues of bitterness, it's independent of issues of forgiveness. It is just that. What will give this burial an aura of respectability that it deserves? Those are matters that ought to be considered. Those are matters that should be dealt with by those in government in looking at this thing, and not looking at this as a political exhibition intended to stop what is perceived as regional embarrassment or national embarrassment. It's beyond that. What amounts to a dignified send-off? If we
Signal is cutting again. Yes, no signal. I think we are almost done. We're just waiting for questions. People will be calling in.
are able to answer that question.
Signal, muevan tu signal.
Every Zambian, every well-meaning Zambian, every person worth being called a leader would consider those as being very important. That's what I would say as regards this matter.
Yeah, Council, can you take 5 questions before we let you go?
Well, I will answer the questions that are coming only to the extent that they relate to the issue that
Thank you. Callers, you are guided. The lines are open. I'll only take 5 questions in this round. Then we can remain where we can hear your views later. But I'll just take the first 5 callers. I know there is a huge number of people that have joined us. We are. I've got the first caller on the line. Caller, please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Ambassador Mamba.
Greetings.
And good evening, Senior Counsel and accomplished lawyer, Mr. Makebi Zulu.
Yes, he's listening to you.
Yeah, I think, first of all, my name is Chanoda Ngwida. I'm the spokesperson of Umawa, also known as Umawa Development Coalition. I want to state categorically Council Makebi, and you want to state categorically Madam Esther Lungu as the main representative of the Lungu family. We want to state here and now that as the people of Eastern Province, we are very disappointed with the government of Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. We are very perturbed that there are a lot of maneuvers in wanting the body of our late president, who is our son, to be repatriated back here home. Even when the family has stated their position. And I want to state here and now that in the South African country, the laws are very clear. They respect the wishes of the family. And let's not, debate or try to paint Emmanuel Mwamba, paint Makebi Zulu, or paint Madam Esther Lungu, or whoever with red colors, simply because they have stood on what they feel or what they know is right. So the best thing that the government of Mr. Hakainde Hichilema can do is allow the wishes of the family. And the family says, we do not want to bury in Zambia. Why are we continuing to do politics over the body of a person that we never respected, a person that we never gave chance, to enjoy his retirement, a person who willingly gave, instruments of power to the person that took over from him? Why are we tormenting the Lungu family? What are we trying to achieve in this whole thing?
Thank you.
Finally, Honorable Makebi Zulu, I know people have said a lot of things against you, and these people are the obvious people that do not want, the wishes of the family to be accomplished and fulfilled. I want you to stay strong. We are praying for you. And as Eastern Province, I want to officially state that as a people of Eastern Province, we stand with you and will continue standing with you. And Ambassador Mwamba, as I conclude, please continue with this verified program that you give unto us as Zambians, because there's a lot that we do not know. And through your platform, we are able to be taught what we do not know. May God bless the Lungu family, and may God strengthen Emmanuel Mwamba, may God strengthen Makebi Zulu, and may God strengthen the Lungu family. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chanoda, for that prayer and words of encouragement. Mama from Norway, you are on. Please make your contributions. Yes, you are on. Just a minute. Oh, we seem to have lost here. Just a minute, Mr. Zulu, just a minute. Pali kaba pano pali diva. Hello, good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Oh, just hold on. Let me just put you on speaker. Oh, I've lost that call. Let me pick the other call. I think Patrick from the UK, you are waiting. Tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Thank you, Ambassador Mwamba. My name is Patrick Chilusia from the UK. And thank you so much for bringing Makebi. We've been looking forward to have him on this program. And thank you, Makebi, for the job you've done. As I won't take long, you've explained everything, but I really feel sad as a Zambian, and clearly shows that we don't have a leader in our country. Because a true leader has compassion, a true leader has empathy, a true leader has love, a true leader is a unifier, and a true leader also is responsible and accountable. We've got a president, Hon Makebi, who doesn't want to lose, or who doesn't seem to be losing. He wants to win at all costs. This person is not a leader, is a liability to our country. And Hon Makebi, we pray for Esther and the family, and also as a nation.
Oh, we lost Shufia there. Hello, Mama. I hope we don't lose this one also. Are you there?
Good evening, Mama, and good evening, Honorable Makebi Zulu.
Yes, please.
My contribution, thank you, Hon Makebi, for finding time and the strength to come and speak to us. And Mama, thank you for hosting. It is quite unfortunate that we're still talking about the funeral. It says a lot about who we are when we talk about Ubuntu. My contribution is, we have heard and read that it is important for a state funeral. And my thinking is, in the event, of course, for the family to settle wanting to bury in South Africa, I don't think that was the first option. The burying in South Africa came about after the deal failed when the body was meant to be repatriated on the 18th. Now, I'm wondering if the body was to be, if it was ruled that we are going to bury in South Africa, is it necessary for the president to still represent Zambians in South Africa? Hon Makebi, has the family requested that, yes, in Zambia they want a state funeral where the president should reside, but in the event the funeral will take place in South Africa, why must the president be present in South Africa? Why can't he send a representative, especially after being mentioned to him that he is not wanted? Because I feel we are creating unnecessary tension that we can simply avoid. And you see, like now you have appeared, we are getting to hear more things that we shouldn't be hearing about. I dearly hope that this can only show us Ubuntu and we go back to the drawing board. Maybe the state should just withdraw this case so that we don't get to hear more, because it will be very difficult for Zambia to start the healing process. I mean, it's now 2 months. When does the healing start? What is it really that we want when we want to talk so highly about Lungu, and yet Lungu is still not buried after 2 months? When is the healing going to start? We've got very strong men and women in the country. When does the guidance start?
Thank you, my dear sister. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Good evening. This is Lilian Mutambo calling from the United Kingdom.
Thank you, Lilian. Thank you.
Greetings, Emmanuel Mamba and Honorable Makebi Zulu State Council. We are so proud of you as the diaspora. We've stood by you. And this is an encouragement that whatever you're doing, keep on, forging ahead. My main concern is about your security and Dr. Edgar Shagalungu's family upon your return to Zambia after the burial. Have you put anything in place with that? Because I don't trust the UPND government, and what they've surely demonstrated is that, this is a mafia kind of government we're dealing with, and I am so concerned about your security. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Lilian. Thank you. Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Hello. Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening. It's Sencho Banda.
Honorable Sencho Banda. Yes, make your contributions.
Sure. I'll be brief in my intervention. What is very sad is that while the court was ongoing, and I just saw on Causeway, just really after the adjournment, is that the chimney
and the white smoke, for me, I ask myself, where is our humanity? It's like we've lost the iota of our humanity, and we're a country which is on the crossroads. And especially to our mother, the former First Lady, as Zambian, when we were young, we were taught to respect women and elders. And in this regard, the treatment of the former First Lady is an Zambian and a signal of troubling loss of national values and respect and compassion and decency. For me, I thought this is a time for reflection and not retaliation, you know. National unity cannot be achieved through humiliation. We need wise leadership that can build bridges, not burn them. And the other question is, where is the chase? Where are the voices of reasoning? The civil society, the chase, traditional leaders must stand up for what is right. Silence in the face of injustice is hypocrisy. As a Christian nation, we must ask God, where are we headed to if we lose our soul, just like winning a fight? For me, basically, I think we need to call for mercy and national healing. We need national healing, not continued hostility.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Sencho Banda. Yeah.
Compassion and politics with morality. I think that's what I think. Otherwise, I think the way I saw the pictures of First Lady. She looked frail and tired. Does that send any signals to our mother, First Lady? What does it speak to our president? I think we need to be humane. I think that's my comments.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I've got a caller here, I think from UK. Caller, you've muted yourself. I think you wanted, yeah. Tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Good evening, Ambassador Member and Honorable Makebi Zulu. My name is Robert. I'm calling from Manchester. I think what I just wanted to say is just to give a word of encouragement for Makebi Zulu, because I can see the pain on his face, and he's just trying to make sure that we resolve this to the best of the ACO family and the country at large. It's just a message of love, like, look, we do love you. And I want you to pass this message to the Lungu family that we are with them. And the people in the diaspora are with them. And we hope that we could have a proper send-off for our president. And you're right, whatever you're doing, do not question yourselves. God is with you, and whatever you're doing is full of wisdom. And the kind of love that the ECO family have shown is something that every family in Zambia needs to understand, that you need to be united as a family. They've shown us the level of unity that I never expected to see in an African family. We thank you so much, and just pass our message of love and peace, and just tell them that we're praying for them almost every day. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Very much. Let me take this last call. Caller, please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Or just a minute, caller. You are mute. Yeah. Yes, caller, tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Yes, I'm calling from South Africa. I'm a South African, by the way. That's how I like to introduce myself.
Oh, okay.
So, yes. So, so she mentioned something like that the Lake family bought a house in South Africa. So I just wonder if Mr. Zulu is still around, just to clarify maybe to the Zambians about that issue, like the way they mentioned about the 150 cars and something like that. There is actually the other guy by the name of something like that. This guy is always spreading those lies. So I just like Mr. Makebi Zulu to Just to clarify that issue.
Thank you. Last for now. We have to allow Honorable Makebi Zulu to go. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening, Honorable Mamba.
Good evening.
My name is Kabungo from the DRC, Kashogwe specific.
In Kashogwe.
Good evening. Yes, sir. Good evening, Honorable Makebi Zulu. I think I am not going to say much, but I am just going to encourage Makebi Zulu, and I would ask him to pass my message as a Zambian in diaspora to the Lungu family. Please tell them that we love them, we're with them. We cannot show up, all of us in South Africa, but we are with them. And Honorable Makebi Zulu, awe ulichaumesa naiwe, uliendo kwa buta, efikaba umefi. Na mfuatu ume, ebwa umyo, takwama na fimbi. Robwa ume, when people fail to make decisions, and when you think at balanjita blame balanjita machina, but you stand firm, you put your foot down, no mwento wa funyapo, you are doing the right thing. Thank you so much, Honorable Manda.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. There are so many people. For others that wish to call, we are going to have a session after Honorable Makebi Zulu leaves. He only gave me an hour. I've already exceeded an hour. But I'm persuaded by the huge numbers of people watching us locally and internationally. Already I can see the views on my pages. 112,000, 3,700 comments. Honorable Makebi Zulu, probably they would have loved you to stay longer. But please give your answers and we'll let you go. Then I'll continue with the views. Honorable Makebi Zulu will hear you because you will still be tuned to us.
Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba. Well, allow me to thank those that have called in, and perhaps the issue that was raised by Mr. Chanoda Ngwira, where he is questioning the leadership of the country. I can only say that, can we for once put reason over pride? Can we allow reason to prevail and not pride? This is not a contestation that should be a win or lose situation. The question is, do we understand that all the family wants is a dignified send-off? Do we understand that? If your coming in the way does not give them a sense of a dignified send-off, why don't you just back down? Reason over pride would be something that would resolve the impasse that is there. Lillian Mutambo, you ask a very interesting question as regards the security. Of course, we've gotten a lot of advice. We've gotten word of threats, both against the family and against myself. But we're of the view that safety is not the absence of danger. We are in danger all the time. Safety is not the absence of danger, but the presence of God. I can assure you that we will be coming to Zambia eventually, and God will take care of us, because safety is not the absence of danger, but the presence of God. Then Robert from Manchester, thank you for the kind words. I will be sure to convey your love to the family. And our prayer in all this is that perhaps the cracks that the death of President Edgar Chagwa are revealing of the areas of healing that our country needs. And perhaps President Edgar Chagwa Lungu is saying, should we continue living like this? Should we? There are ministers who are there. They will no longer be ministers soon. Should we continue on this path as a nation? Perhaps that's a discussion that we should be having. There was a concern to say that there's been things that have been said against the family and against myself personally. I would want to assure you, my fellow citizens, that I will not respond to any personal attacks against myself, and the family will do everything possible to keep the dignity of the death of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu without responding to all forms of propaganda that have been raised, which included the aspect of the Lungus have bought a house in South Africa, which is not true. The Lungus are living a luxurious life in South Africa, which is not true. The Lungus have bought 150 cars in South Africa, which is not true. And it is for that reason that we're saying, if you want us to discuss, and we have called on the government to say, we're willing to talk, but please stop this mudslinging, stop this propaganda, because you need to come with clean hands. You can't be saying we're talking to the family quietly and loudly using mediums such as Causeway and other mediums. You are propagating hatred against the family, trying to make people rise against the family. When all the family is asking for is one thing: how best can we give Edgar Chagwa Lungu a dignified send-off? Indeed, the treatment of the first family has been less than fair on them. And we will not succumb to all negativity, but in all this period, we have dedicated ourselves to prayer and seeking the guidance of God in all this. That is what the family has dedicated its time to do, and they will continue to do so. Patrick Chilufya, thank you very much for your contribution. And you said the president doesn't want to lose. This is not about who wins or who loses. This is about giving President Edgar Chagwa Lungu a dignified send-off. It's a moment for reflection as a nation. What constitutes good leadership? What constitutes how to treat leaders? Even assuming that the leaders are bad, how are we going to treat our leaders as a nation? Should it take death to realize that what we are doing is wrong? I think not. And that is a concern of the family, that perhaps through the death of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, the nation will find the healing that it deserves. And for that reason, I agree with what my brother, Sensho Banda, has said. And perhaps it's time that we reflected on those issues and many more. Ambassador, I thank you very much for having me. Unless there's an issue that I may not have responded to amongst the issues that were raised.
No, Council.
Robert,
you have exceeded, Council, you've exceeded your hospitality, but it demonstrates how important this matter was to the nation. And I'm glad that you shelved a lot of meetings, including the one you're already late for, to just give the insights you've given. I'll let you go, and I would like to thank you so much. Dear viewers, when we come back, I'll take all your calls as much as possible. I have so many calls, but let's see how many calls we can take as we excuse Honorable Makebi Zulu.
How can you allow somebody who has murdered your son or your daughter and you are still mourning to come and attend the funeral, and you need to speak at the funeral, but how good your son was, and you know about it, you say, what's happening? And I think I can just say the whole thing. I summed it up when I spoke to one guy. I said, because how can you, Ambassador?
The late indicated. But what even the court was asking, that did the deceased president make his wish that he wanted to be buried in Zambia? And the answer was yes. So who is saying he shouldn't be buried in Zambia? The first respondent is the one who has made the decision. But again, of course, she could have made that decision because the law here in South Africa says the next of kin. Yeah, so it's looking at what the law says here.
Is this something that the...
Indeed, Attorney General, the law in South Africa says the next of kin. Then we wonder what we are doing in court. We wonder what we are doing in court. Caller, please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Hello, good evening. I'm Don Oscar. I'm calling from Italy. Good evening, and my greetings to the viewers, and my greetings also to Hon Makebi Zulu, who indeed has communicated with us, has shared the experience they had this morning in South Africa. Good evening, everybody. I wanted to take advantage to ask a question to Honorable Makebi Zulu, but all the same, if you can just allow me now, I don't know whether to pose a question or to give my my comment. I don't know what you can allow me to do.
You can ask the questions. Honorable Makebi Zulu is listening. I've taken time to study this matter. Other callers also can help. Everyone can contribute. If there is a question, put it on the floor. If I can't answer it sufficiently, other callers will. We still can even call Honorable Makebi Zulu on the phone. So please, yeah, just be free. But he's also listening. He's going in the car, he's listening.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you so much. I have understood that the bone of contention in this case of the family is that the government did not respect the contract agreed upon before. And I remember vividly that the contract was signed, I think, in the presence of Councillor Makebi Zulu and Mr. Patrick Kangwa on the part of the government. So that day, I remember very well, that was agreed upon, and all the Zambian people, me included, we were expecting that the contract was going to be respected. But unfortunately, the outcome was the opposite. And so Makebi Zulu, the family, the Lungu family, indeed, I sympathize with the Lungu family. I was in South Africa that time when all these things happened, so I'm one of the witnesses. Indeed, I sympathize with the Lungu family, and my observation is, well, irrespective of whatever judgment, the family has the right to decide. So whether they would judge in favor of the government, whether they would judge in favor of the family. What I've understood, according to the South African law, the family has the right to decide. If the family loses the case, Mr. Mwamba, this is my question. If the family, hopefully it doesn't happen like this, if the family loses the case, don't you think it's the right thing to advise them to appeal to the High Court? Because losing the case, it means that the judges will be, the case will be a miscarriage of justice. Hello?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I think we've got your question. I'll endeavor to respond.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That is a Catholic priest, Father Donosco Mwanzapombo from Italy. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Oh, just a minute. Just a minute, caller. Just a minute. We need to resort to... yeah. Yes, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Yes, please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Yes, good evening, Mamba, and good evening, Honorable Makebi Zulu.
Thank you. Make your contributions quickly. Thank you, Zephania.
My question to Honorable Mia Zulu is
Makebi Zulu.
Did that audio which leaked for Robert Chavinga submitted, and this man called Frank Zimba, who claims Aka Fimba Upoke, who has been accusing the late President Edgar Chagwanungu that was engaged in drug trafficking, what measures are they going to do, you as a spokesperson and the lawyer for our mother? And that is the question I wanted to find out.
Thank you, Zephania. Thank you. Hello, good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening, Ambassador Mwambas. Thank you very much for bringing Hon Makebi Zulu Kamwela. Ninebwana masimuka kaputa mkwai. Ndefuna ukipisha kweli kushare na chwana ukipisha na mtweba tibala umfwawe utetanzo. Ifitwamuna kumwela ifingi pa internet filando yo wewe yaba lungu kuma usezi yaba Makebi Zulu ya biruba. Use enfio. Elo nangoline enfio. Ukuya kwantansi kwa milando ishani tuyalomba lesa kwai ningumfana abalondola kuno kwebathi komela palimbira musango nsi kona ulesina jaba president umfa yabo bakwate ichuma chakutukuchaloku na benna abana shiwa nabana bonse libeke balelo shakulia ati bali in luxury fila kwa yana tsuya tefi mbange fifi tutumia kwa ati Makebi Zulu under fire. We are a long course. There's no copy in the High Court.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Let me take as many calls as possible because of the huge numbers of people waiting just to contribute. This is your show. Hello. Caller, please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Okay, my name is Dan. Calling you from Canada.
Yes, Dan from Canada.
First and foremost, I just want to let people know that let us put you, Ambassador Mwamba, in our prayers. You haven't slept. You've just been more like guiding us, and since morning of our morning today, I've just been following you. So we commit you in your prayers, and we thank you. Then I think as the lawyer Makebi Zulu concluded, I think he said a very good point. We've never seen our head of state visit or call the family of ECL. And for me, that is where I should ask all Zambians. If this person has never called the family, do you think he means well? Because Makebi Zulu said it in a very good way. We expected them to come and see us and sit down with us. We would have not reached this far. But what I'm seeing is, this person just wants to bring confusion. But I'm asking all Zambians, let us pray for Zambia and the ECL family. Thank you and God bless Zambia. Thank you, Ambassador Mwamba.
Thank you very much. Yeah, let's take as many calls as possible. This is your show.